Welcome. Hi, this is Carol from Skill Check. Today we're going to be talking about or wondering if you have a lazy ear. I know that sounds a little strange, but it is interesting because when you think about selling, you want to make sure you're listening to your customer and that you're interacting and reading, maybe not reading the script, but you're interacting with them. And let's just listen and learn. So you want to think about engaging the prospective customer in conversation because that's the first thing that happens when the phone rings or when they walk through the door. This is just part of your job. And I know it's a little strange sometimes because you think, "Oh, this is kind of odd. We're talking about weird things." But self-storage managers really need to have the gift of gab. You want someone that likes to talk to other people and likes to interact. And if they were not a person that would want to talk on the phone, you wouldn't want them in this job. So you really need to actually like talking to people. And I hope you do because it makes this job a lot more fun. And yes, you end up talking about stuff that's weird with customers or that's strange and odd. But over time, I think you kind of get used to it, but it is just part of the job. And I like this self-storage counseling too. So it's also counseling, it seems like sometimes that we do for our customers because they come in and they enjoy talking to the managers. And I love that about and really I want to hire managers that are great conversationalists because it makes a difference. So when you're actually listening on the phone and the person's calling in and asking something, it's super important to make sure that you're giving them the information that they need. But I also want you to be human. So when customer opens with something like this, and these two examples actually came from real calls that came into a call center, and I was working with someone new. And so the first one is apparently this girl says, and she was you could tell she was completely upset and on the verge of crying. She said, apparently, my boyfriend has a new girlfriend moving in tonight, and I need to get all my, she didn't say that, things out of his house before she gets there. So I think when we have something like that, I wouldn't, and this girl actually did. She said, the agent, she said, "Oh, well, what size do you need?" And I thought, oh man, you missed the best opportunity to stop and make a connection with that caller. So I would have said something like, oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. Man, you know what? I think you're better without him. Let's get you into some storage space and get you out of there. And like this will, you will overcome this. And I would really kind of beef her up and try to just make her feel that this is all not bad and that, she doesn't, if he doesn't really want to treat her well, then he doesn't deserve her. That's, I guess, my feeling. Another one that I heard recently on a call center, and the guy called in. It was a guy, and he was kind of emotional as he's saying it. See, he didn't say it in a matter of fact way. He was very emotional about it. He said, "But my mom and dad have passed away with COVID, and my sisters and I sold their house." And he said, "We need to store their furniture and the stuff from their home, and we don't know what to do with everything yet." So he didn't, and and again, the agent was like, "Well, it sounds like you'll need one of our largest spaces." And you know what? Okay, that is probably an accurate answer, but I would still stop and say, "I am so sorry to hear about your mom and dad. That I can't even imagine how hard that would be, losing them both at the same time. And during COVID here, it's been really difficult for a lot of families. But, let me see what I can do to help you, and we'll make this process easy and to help you deal with your parents' things, and then go on to give them the size of a really large space." So it's so important to really communicate with customers and not ignore their pain or their concern, and be indifferent about them being a human. So I think it is super important for you to really take these moments and um, and not abuse it, but be kind and be caring about someone else. So I think these, especially for me, when I was on with these new people at a call center, it was a coaching opportunity. So what I did is I worked with them and coached them how they could really work on empathizing and really listening to what the customer's state of mind is before begin talk, before they start talking and trying to explain the information about storage. But you really have to work on your tone of voice, the pace that you're going at with, too fast. You might have to slow down a little bit. And the problem that, dealing with the problem that they're having, not just the issue of getting them in the right size, but making sure that it's important that they figure out how, all the family members are going to bring stuff in, or how they're going to use storage and make it work for them. So you want to engage that prospect by asking them inquiring questions and appropriate based on what they said in their opening statement. But you should also handle the question and statements from customers, in very different manners based on what they're asking you. And if what their problem is. I know I had a gentleman one time that he was telling me that his son was going into prison. And so I thought, wow. I said, wow, that must be really difficult for you too. Not obviously he's in a bad place, but he said, yeah, I have to clean out all his apartment. He's already in jail, and I have to figure all of this out. And he was convicted to it had to be a year in prison. And so he said, and I didn't know what to do, but just I've got to move all of his stuff, and all of his stuff this landed on me. So and I just tried to continually say, well, okay, we're going to make this easy. Tell me what kind of stuff he has in there, and I'll give you an idea of what we can put that in. So it's really important to engage that customer, ask good questions, make statements and that are helpful to them based on what they're asking. So you want to remember that you have to learn to take control in an unobtrusive manner, especially when depending on what their question is. And one of the questions I find hard at times is how much your 10 by 10s. I just need a price. People think that that's the truth because they're calling around 5 different places, maybe all looking for the same thing. But in self-storage, we don't all have the same product. Even though we may have a 10 by 10, it's not the exact same at every single place. I've got a new storage property going up in Scottsdale, and it's air conditioned. It's just absolutely beautiful. I mean, everything about it is really nice. So, and versus maybe an older property that has a drive up. And it's not, doesn't make one necessarily worse, but if you have a drive up, which a lot of people like, the fact that they can just drive their car right up to it and open up the door, but the stuff does not stay as nice as it does unless if it's indoor climate control type of space. So it certainly depends on what they're storing and how they want to it to be when they bring it back out. So the other thing is, do you have any 5 by 10s available? Questions like that. I know that you may feel like they're just shopping, but again, if they are just shopping for price, what you think is just price, it might not be just price. It also is what else you have that's different from your competitor. And I'm going to say, those of you that have drive-up spaces and that you're not interior and air conditioned, and you're not a $20 million building. if you have the old style drive-up, some people really like that. They just like the fact that they put the code in, they go in, they drive right up, they get the stuff in and out, and it's super easy and super fast. And they feel like sometimes going, getting a parking place, then going in the office or going, up to their space or up the elevator or whatever, it's a little more difficult. But again, it depends on what they're storing. And I think whatever product you have, you can sell it based on the benefits of it. So think about that. You also want to deflect the price question, because sometimes that when they're calling up, they think it's just about price, and it really isn't. So you can say something such as, let me check the computer to see what I have available. And then that gives you a little bit more time to tell them about the store and just say, let me look this up. And while I am, let me tell you a little bit about our storage space. So this buys you some time, right? So you can say you're looking for the availability, but that 10 by 10 you're looking for is about the size of most bedrooms. Do you think that would work for you? And again, get them to interact while you're looking for it. It gives you a good excuse. Now, if they're shocked by the price, because sometimes that's true, you quickly offer something like, well, if you stack and utilize the height of the space, you might be able to get into that 5 by 15 space, and it's only blank per month. And then that will help you give them a less expensive size and price. And then that way it might be able to keep them at your store as opposed to going somewhere else. The other thing, when you're listening and when you're talking about selling, Listening is a critical sales skill. It truly is. And you want to pay attention to what they're saying and avoid the temptation to interrupt, especially because some people are a little more long-winded, especially sometimes older people. They want more information or they want more time and they're slower interacting. Don't just listen to their words, but also listen for their underlying meaning because it does make a difference. And another good thing is just take notes. I like to take notes on a sheet of paper, and then that way I can remember what they said. But you also want to ask questions to clarify. And then you'll know exactly, well, you know what? I'm going to show you when you come in, I'm going to show you two different units because one of these absolutely would work. But I think it depends on whether you wanted to, really stack well and pack it all the way to the ceiling, or whether you wanted a little bit more space to move around in. But don't judge them. Be careful about that because sometimes they call about just the price and you're thinking they're just price sensitive, but it doesn't necessarily mean that if they had the right thing or if you explained why it was more expensive, that they will pay more for that. So respond appropriately also and be careful. And appropriately is when they tell you something that's sad or hard to hear or something like that, try to understand that where they're at and them say, I'm so sorry to hear about your mom and dad or whatever the situation is. And it could be, moving out, or a lot of these things aren't fun. Or like the guy that had the son that was going in prison. I said, I'm so sorry to hear that. That's got to be hard, not only for him, but your family too. So it all makes a difference. But listen for ways that you can assist the customers and not just counsel them, but with their storage needs. I'm not saying that you have to be their counselor, but you could be their storage counselor, right? Because you're going to help them figure out all their storage needs. Well, thank you so much for watching. And if you have any other ideas that you would like me to talk about on one of our webinars, please let me know. I'd love to tackle it and see what I can do. Again, this is Carol Mixon from SkillCheck, and please click and subscribe because it makes a whole lot of difference to someone at YouTube. So, well, to me too, not just for that. But anyway, thank you for listening and happy renting.